Your peace is more valuable than anyone's approval. And when we truly understand this, life begins to change in ways we never imagined. You see, from the moment we are young, we are taught to please, to make sure everyone around us is comfortable, happy, satisfied, and proud of us. We grow up believing that the opinions of others somehow define our worth. We try to fit into expectations, adjust ourselves to keep relationships alive, and bend our boundaries so no one gets upset. But in this constant effort to be accepted, we slowly lose the most precious thing we have, our inner peace. There comes a moment in life when you must pause and ask yourself, is this approval worth my mental and emotional freedom? So often the answer is no. Approval may bring temporary satisfaction, but peace brings long-term strength. Approval depends on others, but peace depends on you. Approval fades as soon as someone changes their mood, but peace stays with you when you learn to protect it. Many women, especially nurturing, giving, loving women, confuse peace with harmony. They think that if they avoid conflict, if they stay quiet, if they keep everyone happy, they will stay peaceful. But the truth is the opposite. Peace does not mean tolerating everything. Peace does not mean staying in places where you are disrespected. Peace does not mean allowing people to drain your energy just because you love them. Peace means choosing yourself even when the world questions your decision. You don't lose peace because of what people say. You lose peace because you give their words too much power. You don't lose peace because someone leaves. You lose peace because you chase what was never meant to stay. You don't lose peace because people judge you. You lose peace because you start believing their judgments. When you start valuing your peace more than their approval, something magical happens. You stop taking things personally. You stop explaining your every move. You stop proving your worth. You stop shrinking to make others feel comfortable. You begin living from a place of strength instead of fear. People will always have opinions. They will always have expectations. They will always have something to say about your choices. But ask yourself honestly, how many of those people are actually walking your path? How many truly understand your heart? How many carry even a fraction of your struggles? Yet their opinions control so much of your emotions. Isn't it strange? The truth is, peace is not given, it's protected. And the moment you begin protecting it, you automatically invite better things into your life. You attract better people, better opportunities, better energy, because anything that threatens your peace simply cannot stay. When you stop craving approval, you become free, free from fear, free from doubts, free from the weight of other people's expectations. And when a woman becomes free, she becomes powerful beyond measure. Relationships change, conversations change, decisions change. Your entire way of living begins to shift from what will they think to what do I need? And that shift, that moment, is where you reclaim your life. Some people will call you selfish when you finally choose peace over pleasing. But remember this with full confidence. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It's survival. It's self-respect. It's emotional maturity. There will be friendships you outgrow because they no longer align with your peace. There will be family members you love deeply but must set strong boundaries with. There will be relationships you walk away from because staying would cost you your mental health. There will be situations you refuse to tolerate because your peace matters more than their temporary approval. This is not arrogance, this is not ego, this is healing. And healing requires courage, the courage to disappoint others if it means you no longer disappoint yourself. Not everyone will clap for your peace. Not everyone will understand your silence. Not everyone will accept your boundaries. Not everyone will celebrate your growth. But that's the beauty of focusing on peace. You don't need everyone's approval anymore. Some people are meant to be lessons. Some are meant to be blessings. And some are meant to be released. Your job is to choose what keeps your heart calm, your mind clear, and your energy sacred. When you prioritize peace, you step into a life where noise no longer distracts you, people no longer control you, and situations no longer shake you. You become grounded, centered, confident, and deeply connected with yourself. So say it gently, firmly, and fearlessly. My peace is my priority. My peace is my boundary. My peace is my strength. My peace is my responsibility. When you live by this truth, you won't need approval because you will already have something far more powerful, inner peace, that no one can take away. Letting go is not weakness. It is emotional strength, spiritual maturity, and one of the highest forms of self-respect. Many people misunderstand the idea of letting go. They think it means you didn't care enough, that you gave up too soon, or that you didn't try your best. But the truth is completely different. Letting go often comes after you have tried everything, given everything, and poured your heart into something that simply wasn't meant to stay. It is not an act of defeat. It is an act of wisdom. There comes a time in your life when holding on hurts more than releasing. When staying attached becomes a burden heavier than walking away. When the emotional cost of holding on becomes too high, too draining, too destructive. And that's when life gently whispers to you, it's time to let go. But letting go is difficult because humans are emotional beings. We attach, we hope, we expect, and we build stories in our minds about how things should be. We cling to people because of memories. We remain in situations out of fear. We hold on to relationships because we believe time invested equals future guaranteed. But time does not guarantee anything. Effort does not always fix everything. Love is not always enough to keep something alive. Letting go requires the courage to accept reality. It requires the strength to look at something honestly, without illusions, without excuses, without forcing what no longer fits your destiny. It is the bravery to say, this is not serving my growth anymore. This is draining my peace. This is limiting my spirit. And despite the pain, I choose myself. Sometimes letting go is not about people. Sometimes it's about letting go of old versions of yourself. The version that tolerated disrespect, that settled for less, that accepted crumbs of love, that doubted her own worth. You must release the woman who lived in survival mode in order to become the woman who thrives. Letting go also means releasing expectations, expecting certain people to apologize, expecting life to unfold exactly as you planned, expecting others to behave the way you behave. You free yourself from disappointment the moment you stop expecting people to be someone they're not capable of being. Not everyone has your heart. Not everyone has your loyalty. Not everyone has your depth. And that's okay. The beauty of letting go is that it creates space. When you cling tightly to what's hurting you, your hands are too full to receive what's meant for you. When you keep chasing what's leaving, you block what's arriving. When your heart holds on to the wrong person, it can't recognize the right one. But the moment you release the weight you weren't meant to carry, life begins to open up again. Letting go is not forgetting. It's not erasing memories. It's simply choosing not to let the past control your present. It's choosing to move forward with grace instead of bitterness. It's choosing healing over hurting, peace over chaos, and growth over comfort. Most people confuse familiarity with love. They stay because the pain is familiar. They remain because the chaos is predictable. But familiarity is not happiness. Comfort is not peace. And attachment is not love. Letting go means understanding that your heart deserves more than what it has tolerated. It means refusing to shrink yourself to fit into spaces that no longer welcome your light. It means having faith that what is meant for you will never require you to lose your dignity, your peace, or your identity. The truth is, letting go requires more strength than holding on. Anyone can hold on. Even a drowning person holds on to anything nearby, even if it pulls them deeper. But letting go means choosing life, choosing breath, choosing freedom. It means trusting that you will survive the loss, the change, the uncertainty. And you will. There will be nights when your heart feels heavy. There will be days when you miss what you walked away from. There will be moments when your mind tries to convince you to return to what hurt you. But healing is not linear, and missing someone or something does not mean you made the wrong choice. It simply means you are human. You can miss something and still not want it back. You can look back without going back. Letting go allows you to rediscover yourself. The pieces of you that were hidden beneath worry, fear, and emotional exhaustion start rising again. You begin to breathe deeper. You begin to sleep better. You begin to walk lighter. You begin to reconnect with your own soul. And one day, slowly, quietly, almost unexpectedly, you realize you feel free. The pain softens, the memories lose their bite, the emotions settle, the peace returns, and you ask yourself, why didn't I let go earlier? Because the lesson was necessary, the journey was necessary, the growth was necessary, and now the release is necessary too. So let go not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring for yourself. Let go not to punish someone else, but to protect your own heart. Let go because what's ahead of you is far greater than what's behind you. And let go because strength isn't in holding on. Strength is in knowing when it's time to walk away. Healing begins when you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. This is a painful but liberating truth that every woman eventually discovers. For so long, you try to justify your feelings, your decisions, your boundaries, your choices, hoping that someone will finally say, I understand you. But the reality is, some people don't want to understand you. They don't listen to hear your heart. They listen to defend their ego. They don't want clarity. They want control. They don't want truth. They want the version of the story that makes them comfortable. And when you keep explaining yourself to such people, you drain your emotional energy for nothing. Healing begins the moment you recognize this pattern. The moment you look at someone and finally understand that their confusion is not an accident, it is their convenience. Their misunderstanding is not a mistake, it is their mindset. They don't misunderstand you because you're unclear. They misunderstand you because it benefits them. If they truly understood you, they would have to acknowledge the pain they caused. If they truly understood you, they would have to reflect on their behavior. If they truly understood you, they might feel guilty, responsible, or accountable. And accountability is something not everyone is willing to face. So they pretend not to understand. They twist your words. They label you dramatic, sensitive, emotional, overthinking, or too much. They invalidate your feelings because accepting them would require effort. They dismiss your boundaries because respecting them would require change. They call your truth an exaggeration because hearing it would puncture their comfort zone. And you, because you have a soft heart, a giving nature, and a desire for peace, keep explaining. You try to make them see your point. You repeat yourself. You break your own heart trying to articulate pain that they never intended to acknowledge. You give long messages, long explanations, long apologies, even when you did nothing wrong. But it still goes nowhere because you cannot communicate with someone who listens to respond, not to understand. You cannot bond with someone who sees your vulnerability as weakness. You cannot reach the heart of someone who refuses to open theirs. Healing starts when you finally stop playing this game. When you stop explaining why you deserve respect, because respect is not something you beg for, it is something you require. When you stop explaining why you deserve honesty, because honesty is not negotiable, it is basic. When you stop explaining why your feelings matter, because your emotions are not up for debate. When you stop explaining why you walked away, because sometimes silence speaks louder than every explanation combined. There are people who may never understand your heart, and that is okay. They are not your people. They are not meant to walk with you into the next chapter of your life. Their misunderstanding is the universe's way of redirecting you. Let it redirect you to people who value emotional depth, who appreciate your honesty, who respect your boundaries, who honor your presence. For a long time, you may blame yourself for not being clearer, smarter, calmer, stronger. But healing begins when you realize it was never your job to teach someone how to treat you. It was their job to learn. You were never asking for too much. You were simply asking the wrong person. You were never hard to understand. You were speaking to the wrong listener. Do you know the peace that comes when you stop explaining yourself? Suddenly, your mind rests, your heart breathes, your energy returns, your anxiety fades, your dignity rises, because explanations are heavy. They carry emotional labor. And when you stop carrying unnecessary weight, you begin to stand taller. You begin to trust your intuition again. You begin to honor your boundaries again. You begin to feel your worth again. You learn that some people understand perfectly well, but pretend not to, because that excuses their behavior. Some people hear you clearly, but act confused because confusion gives them power. And some people simply do not have the emotional capacity to meet you where you are, no matter how beautifully you try to explain. Healing is choosing not to engage with that anymore. Healing is saying, I don't need you to understand me. I understand myself. Healing is recognizing that your peace is more important than their perception. Healing is knowing that closure is not something they give. It is something you create. When you stop explaining yourself to the wrong people, you create space for the right ones. You create space for peace. You create space for clarity. You create space for freedom. And most importantly, you create space for yourself. You're healed, grounded, self-respecting self. Because the moment you stop seeking understanding from those committed to misunderstanding you, that's the moment your true healing finally begins. Silence is not empty, it's a space where your power rebuilds. In a world that constantly pushes you to react, to respond, to defend yourself, silence becomes one of the strongest forms of self-control. Many people confuse silence with weakness, with surrender, or with not having anything to say. But silence is not the absence of words, it is the presence of wisdom. It is the moment when you stop wasting your energy on things that do not deserve it and start investing that same energy into your own healing, your own growth, and your own evolution. Silence is misunderstood because most people are uncomfortable with it. They rely on noise to distract themselves from their insecurities. They use arguments to feel powerful. They use drama to feel significant. They use chaos to avoid facing their own truth. So when you choose silence, they think you've given up, but actually you're rising, you're shifting, you're reclaiming your peace. Silence is not retreat, it's strategy. When life gets loud, when people become hurtful, when situations become overwhelming, silence becomes your spiritual shelter. It's a place where your mind stops racing, your heart stops hurting, and your soul starts breathing again. In silence, you begin to see things clearly. You begin to understand what truly matters. You begin to separate what deserves your response and what deserves your absence. We often speak out of anger, fear, insecurity, or pain. But in silence, those emotional clouds settle and the truth becomes visible. You see people for who they are, not who you wish they were. You see relationships for what they bring, not what they promised. You see situations not through desperation, but through clarity. Silence gives you the space to listen, not to others, but to yourself. And when you finally hear your own voice, you realize how much wisdom you were ignoring. Silence is where your strength is born. Loud people look powerful, but truly powerful people are calm. They don't need to prove anything. They don't chase arguments. They don't waste words. They don't use their voice to win battles that don't matter. They protect their energy by choosing their responses carefully. And many times, the strongest response is no response at all. Silence becomes protection. When you stop reacting to negativity, you stop feeding it. Many people poke, provoke, and push only to get a reaction out of you. Your reaction fuels them. Your silence disarms them. Your silence confuses them. Your silence takes away the power they once had over your emotions. It also protects your dignity. There is nothing more graceful than a woman who refuses to lower herself to the level of someone trying to trigger her. Remaining silent in the face of disrespect or manipulation is not avoidance. It is emotional mastery. It's choosing peace over chaos, self-respect over ego, and wisdom over impulsiveness. Silence is also where your healing happens. When you stop arguing, explaining, complaining, or defending, You finally have the mental and emotional space to process what you've been carrying. You start asking yourself deeper questions. Why did this hurt me? What lesson is this teaching me? What do I truly deserve? What do I need to release? And healing begins with honest answers. In silence, your wounds speak. Your intuition speaks. Your soul speaks. And when you listen, you grow in ways no argument or explanation could ever make you grow. Silence teaches you patience. It teaches you self-control. It teaches you the art of observing before acting. It teaches you to sit with discomfort rather than run from it. It teaches you to respond only when response is meaningful. Silence also attracts peace. The less you react to drama, the more peace you invite into your life. The less you engage with toxic people, the more you rise above them. The less you chase validation, the more confident you become. The less you try to prove your worth, the more you realize you never needed to prove it in the first place. Silence is not loneliness, it is alignment. It is where you align with your values, your priorities, your identity, and your purpose. It is where you rebuild yourself quietly, gently, and powerfully. And when you rise after that silent season, you rise differently, wiser, stronger, calmer, and more grounded. People often wonder why a woman who once reacted, once chased, once explained, once argued suddenly becomes quiet. They mistake her silence for defeat. But her silence is transformation. It means she has finally realized that not every battle deserves her presence, not every situation deserves her focus, and not every person deserves access to her heart. Silence becomes a declaration. I choose peace over proving. I choose reflection over reaction. I choose growth over chaos. I choose myself. And that is where your true power lies, not in how loudly you speak, but in how confidently you walk away. Because silence doesn't mean you have nothing to say. It means you finally understand that not everyone deserves to hear your voice. Silence is not empty. Silence is full of your power returning home to you. Protect your energy like it is sacred, because it truly is. The world may not always treat your energy with care, but you must. Your energy is the foundation of your peace, your decisions, your emotional stability, and your overall well-being. And yet, most people spend it carelessly, giving pieces of themselves to situations that don't grow them, people who don't value them, and conversations that drain them. They try to be available for everyone, everywhere, at every moment, until one day they realize they've left nothing for themselves. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It is necessary for survival, clarity, and emotional balance. Your energy determines how you show up in life. When it is high, you feel confident, aligned, creative, and calm. When it is drained, you become irritable, anxious, lost, and disconnected. Your energy is the invisible force that shapes your days and transforms your life. And yet, the majority of emotional stress comes not from what happens to you, but from what you continue to allow to enter your space. There are people whose presence feels like a warm light, calming, comforting, supportive. Being around them uplifts you. But there are also people whose presence feels like a storm, unpredictable, draining, chaotic, and often the mistake we make is believing that because we care for someone, we must tolerate their effect on our energy. This is not true. You can love people deeply and still protect your space from their negativity. You can care about them and still choose distance. You can wish them well and still set boundaries. Your energy is sacred. You do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. You do not have to respond to every criticism thrown at you. You do not have to explain yourself to people who already made up their minds. You do not have to fix everything that breaks around you. You do not have to be the emotional caretaker for everyone else while abandoning yourself. Protecting your energy means understanding that peace is not found in the absence of problems, but in the presence of boundaries. It means knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to engage and when to walk away, when to be available and when to pull back, when to say yes and when to confidently say no. A lot of your stress has nothing to do with your job, your responsibilities, or your life circumstances. It comes from the people who consistently drain your spirit, people who demand your attention without offering any in return, people who constantly take but rarely give, people who project their insecurities onto you, people who belittle your emotions, people who use guilt as a tool to keep you in their cycle. Protecting your energy is recognizing these patterns without anger or bitterness and saying, I choose not to lose myself in this. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is step back, not to punish anyone, not to create distance out of ego, but simply to restore yourself. Taking a break is not giving up, it's giving yourself space to breathe. Silence is not weakness, it's a reset. Distance is not coldness, it's clarity. Your energy is your currency. Spend it wisely. If someone costs you your peace, they are too expensive. If a situation costs you your joy, it is too costly. If a relationship drains your self-esteem, your confidence, or your mental health, it is not worth the price. People will call you different when you start protecting your energy. They will say you've changed, that you've become distant, that you don't care anymore. But what they don't realize is that you finally started caring about yourself. You finally stopped entertaining disrespect. You finally stopped carrying emotional loads that weren't yours. You finally understood that your energy cannot be an open door for everyone. When your energy is protected, your life transforms. You become more aware of who you're becoming. You make better decisions. You attract better people. You experience more peace. You find your purpose. You hear your intuition clearly. You stop feeling guilty for choosing yourself. Some connections will fade naturally as you heal, not because something went wrong, but because your spirit outgrew the level of energy they were offering. Some conversations won't interest you anymore because you've evolved beyond them. Some arguments won't affect you because you no longer need validation. This is how you know you are protecting your energy correctly. You feel lighter. You begin to value solitude. You begin to enjoy your own company. You begin to feel comfortable not explaining your boundaries. You begin to trust your inner peace more than the noise around you. You start understanding that what you allow is what continues. Protecting your energy is choosing peace even when chaos tempts you. It's choosing silence when noise tries to provoke you. It's choosing rest when the world demands productivity. It's choosing yourself when you spent years choosing everyone else. Your energy is sacred because it is the home of your soul. Do not let anyone enter without permission. Do not let anyone stay who disrespects the space. And do not feel guilty for guarding the door. When you protect your energy, you protect your peace. When you protect your peace, you protect your spirit. And when you protect your spirit, you become unstoppable. Your growth will offend people who refuse to grow with you. This is a truth many people discover only after they start changing their life, healing their wounds, setting boundaries, and choosing better for themselves. Suddenly, the people who once cheered for you become distant. The people who once depended on your weakness become uncomfortable with your strength. The people who once enjoyed you being available, predictable, and easy to control begin to shift. And it's not because you've done something wrong, it's because you've started to evolve. Growth is uncomfortable, not just for you but for those around you. When you decide to rise, it forces others to acknowledge that they are standing still. When you become aware of your worth, it reminds others of the areas where they settle. When you heal, it highlights the wounds others continue to avoid. Your transformation becomes a mirror, reflecting truths people don't want to face about themselves. Some people don't want to see you grow because your growth challenges their comfort. As long as you stay the same, they don't have to change. As long as you remain predictable, they don't have to adjust. As long as you stay silent, they don't have to take responsibility. So when you begin evolving, they feel threatened. Not because you did anything to harm them, but because your progress exposes their stagnation. Your growth interrupts the dynamics that once kept certain relationships alive. Maybe you were the one who always apologized. Maybe you were the one who tolerated disrespect. Maybe you were the one who stayed quiet to keep the peace. Maybe you were the one who accepted the bare minimum. But when you start growing, you naturally stop participating in these patterns. You stop apologizing for things that were never your fault. You stop accepting treatment that does not match your value. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop bending to keep relationships intact. And suddenly, people who once benefited from your lack of boundaries start calling you difficult, proud, changed, or too much. The truth is, you didn't become too much, you simply stopped being less. Your growth makes some people uncomfortable because they preferred the version of you who didn't know her worth, the version who didn't say no, the version who accepted excuses, the version who ignored red flags, the version who gave unlimited chances. But that version of you was surviving. This version of you is awakening. Growth requires letting go of old identities. And sometimes old identities are tied to people who liked you better before you grew. They liked the old you because she needed them. They liked the old you because she tolerated their behavior. They liked the old you because she didn't challenge the imbalance in the relationship. But now, as you grow, you become harder to manipulate, harder to guilt trip, harder to take advantage of, and that threatens the foundation of those old dynamics. Many times, you will lose people simply because you found yourself. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into your next chapter. Not everyone is meant to understand your transformation. Not everyone is supposed to celebrate your healing. Some people are tied to your past, not your future. Your growth will offend the ones who wanted you to stay small. It will offend the ones who benefited from your silence. It will offend the ones who expected you to remain broken so they could feel whole. It will offend the ones who saw you as competition, not inspiration. It will offend the ones who subconsciously believed you didn't deserve better than them. As you rise, don't be surprised when people act differently. Some will distance themselves. Some will criticize your decisions. Some will try to pull you back. Some will pretend they don't notice your progress. Some will question your intentions. Some will feel jealous without admitting it. And some will quietly hope you fail because your success disrupts the story they created about you. But their discomfort is not your responsibility. Their resistance is not your burden. Their insecurity is not your problem. You are not growing for them. You are growing for yourself. Understand this deeply. Growth requires courage. It requires leaving behind habits that kept you stuck. It requires distancing yourself from people who drain you. It requires breaking cycles your family normalized. It requires choosing peace over familiarity. It requires making decisions that the older version of you would never have imagined. And that journey will not please everyone. But remember, your life is not meant to be lived at the level someone else is comfortable with. You are not obligated to stay small because someone else is afraid of heights. You are not required to dim your light because they refuse to shine. You are not meant to shrink yourself to stay relatable to people who refuse to grow. Your growth will create discomfort around you, but it will create freedom within you. Your growth may cost you relationships, but it will bring you alignment. Your growth may offend others, but it will empower you. At the end of the day, the people who truly belong in your life will not be intimidated by your growth. They will be inspired by it. They will clap for you, support you, evolve with you, and celebrate your transformation. The ones who cannot handle your growth are simply not meant for the version of you becoming. So continue growing, continue healing, continue rising. Your growth is not a threat, it is your birthright.